welcome back to the class. You guys had a midterm. It's being graded, with exception of one or two maybe who really were at a complete loss. Most of you did manage pretty well. Some of the answers were obviously not very complete, but at least most of you made attempt at all the questions. Again, I meant for the midterm to be both a test of your knowledge as well as a confirmation of what it is you're supposed to be learning. So it's more conceptual, and also that's due to the limitation that basically you can't do computational exam. You can't do programming on the live. We haven't got to that stage yet. Okay, right. So according to the syllabus, today is supposed to be today is supposed to be like a group session pitching on the various projects that you are trying to do, and kind of brainstorming. What I had in mind was that it was going to be like a group session. Everybody just sort of each group just sort of like taking turn, maybe pitching the ideas to the larger class, and then crossing some ideas and proposal and so forth. But it's not that conducive to do that, I guess, unless you guys are all here. So I think what we can do is somebody's chatting on the phone. Okay. Right. Okay. So by the way, just for your information, I'm not wearing black because I'm going to the protest. I'm wearing black because my father passed away. That was the reason that I canceled the class 2 weeks ago. And I hope you guys are not really taking part in that. It's quite interesting, actually. This has a very good sort of like implication on what it is we're trying to learn with data analytics. I think there are two lessons I think we can draw from what's going on politically or whatever socially at the moment. There's one lesson that I think is fairly obvious to most of us working in data science, is that when the internet proliferate, this was in the early 2000s, the idea of, at that time, the prevalent thought of that time was that with globalization, with the internet, with the democratization of information and knowledge, it's going to bring the world together because we'll come to a common understanding. It's like we're going to come to a ground truth. Okay, basically everybody can access Wikipedia, and if there's dissent, then the Wikipedia will be the forum where people can actually propose different viewpoint and different evidence for historical events and so forth. And it's sort of like a peer review process that we do in the academic community. You present your thesis, you present your hypothesis, you present your evidence, and if somebody has better evidence or better logical argument, then you propose that, and then you debate, and you have this open conversation, and you come to a general consensus as to what is fact, what's opinion. And that was the prevalent thinking of 2000s when the internet came of age. Okay. The problem is that the internet came of age then, but then the algorithm came of age about 10 years later. By which I mean algorithm that actually, the algorithm that that is used by Lazada, for example. If you it's very obvious. If you've been shopping for accessory for your dress, chances are tomorrow when you log in, you'll be bombarded with advertising for accessory to your dress. If you've been looking at electronic goods, then you'll be bombarded with suggestion on electronic goods. Now, a lot of you don't realize this because you haven't really lived a long time in the United States, as I have. The United States went through a very dramatic shift in the, I can't put the date on it, but maybe the 90s. Yeah, I would say the 90s. What happened was that news, it used to be where we had this ABC, NBC, the big three, big four broadcasting companies. And they were making money from selling advertising for the programs, the drama, the soap operas and whatnot. But they kind of have a mutual understanding that from 8 o'clock to 10 p.m. It was news hours, and news was supposed to be basically factual, and nobody was supposed to make any money. It was a public service. It was a kind of social contract. You have the license to operate a broadcast, and so you obligated to provide a social service in the form of news that's not making any money. So 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock, which is a prime time, everybody tune in. Nobody's making money. Nobody was supposed to make money. NBC, ABC, you turn on the news, it's just different faces of the anchor. Do you like Dan Rather or do you like Tom Brokaw? Which one looks better? Do you like female presenter? You like male presenter? I personally like Peter Jennings. He's very, very handsome and very articulate. So everybody had a different flavor of the news broadcaster, but you were getting exactly the same news. Okay, it was all fact checked, and basically you can't have unsubstantiated claims floating about. And then the innovation was that, well, I would say the first innovation, which seemed at the time as a good thing, and this is a recurring theme. Sometimes good intentions lead to good thing for 10 years, and then 20 years later, something bad came out of it. Well, CNN came about. CNN is like 24 hours news network. So they have to make money on news. They have to make money on news, which is a bit like newspaper. So they focus on the spectacular, on issues that focus people's attention. Okay. Now, this was basically data analytics, pre-data analytics day. So you knew that basic psychology of human being focus on the sensational. So you have like the violent crimes, you have some kind of like gossip, the stars who's sleeping with whom and who's breaking up with whom and that sort of thing. And that is the usual filter that news editor would use to decide what's to show. On entertainment hours, it would be which Hollywood star is sleeping or not sleeping with whom, and so forth. And so that was enough to sell the news. That was enough to sell the news. So it was about degree. It wasn't so much about content or the side, Democratic versus Republican. It wasn't taking side. It was about how sensational is the news. If the plane crashed, it's a lot more sensational than car crash. So plane crash would take precedence over car crash, that and so forth. And that's how the news operated for a little while. But the door was open to this idea that news was something that was commercializable. Okay, news, the notion that news, so with CNN kind of came the notion that news is something that can be sold. Okay, newsprint is a hot property. It's like newspaper. It's like newspaper. Okay. Whereas with newspaper, you have news and you have advertising. And this was a little bit more subtle. It was about drawing the people to CNN as many hours a day as you possibly can. ใช้ซูมวันนี้เราใช้ซูมกันเยอะมีซูมไหมลูกถ้าไม่มีก็ gather around. We're kind of doing everything on Zoom at the moment. Okay, so back to the data. So the data analytics at that time was about was a little bit more of natural preference. The more sensationalized, the more newsworthy, so to speak. Like I said, plane crash takes precedence over train crash takes precedence over a car crash, and so forth. And that's enough to sell CNN. Okay. Now, what happened then is this. What happened? That's the first floodgate that was open. And here's the second floodgate that was open in the U.S. This was due to Philip Morris. And anybody knows what Philip Morris is? Any of you guys? Come on, you get bonus point for telling me information like this. You should know. Who's Philip Morris? Philip Morris is a tobacco company. Okay, Philip Morris is a tobacco company. So, what did Philip Morris do that was so innovative? Well, in the 50s, people weren't really into the science of smoking and cancer. Everybody was smoking. I don't know if you guys watch Netflix. I'm sure you guys all watch Netflix, right? No? Mad Men. Have you seen the series Mad Men? Very popular. Maybe not that much among young people, but basically everybody was smoking. Okay, everybody was smoking. Men, women, maybe not children, but certainly if you are in a working environment, you smoke. You smoke on an airplane. Okay, you smoke everywhere. And then mounting evidence came that smoking led to cancer. Okay, so the tobacco industry tried to combat this the natural way, which is to try to get the people to ignore the health side of it. Okay, just say, you know, smoking is cool, so health hazard, just kind of ignore it, you know, like Marlboro kind of ads. Okay, if you're real men, you know, you're a cowboy, you ride horses, you smoke, and health issue is for sissies, you know. If you care about the health of your lung, you're not a real man, that sort of thing. So that was the first approach, I think. And that worked to an extent, worked a little bit, but it didn't work all that well. So the innovation that you can say data scientist, but not really. The innovation that the strategists at Philip Morris did was to do this. Well, we can't divert people's attention away from the science that, you know, tobacco or smoking causes cancer. What we could do is actually bombard the public with doubt. So they were actually doing a public campaign, not to advertise cigarettes, but to advertise their version of science that does not prove that tobacco causes cancer. In other words, they were using the marketing mechanism, okay? The same mechanism that sells Marlboro ads to sell dubious science that says smoking doesn't cause cancer. So they were using the commercial mechanism, you know, a sales ad and that all sort of thing to bombard the public with doubt. So they were attacking the science directly. That was the new game. That was the innovation. And that, to me, is how we end up with today. Okay? I don't know if you know this, but well, again, I grew up in the United States. Spent at some point, I spent half my life there, you know, until I came here and I established, settled down. But I grew up in the United States. And so I kind of knew the psychology of people living there. Well, this idea of attacking the science started to pervade, okay, started to pervade. And fast forward to today, the oil and gas industry, not like in our oil and gas industry, but I'm talking about global player, you know, like BP, the big oil and gas producer, Texaco and whatnot, Mobil, Exxon. These people, they use the same, they copy the what's called the game plan of the tobacco industry. So they started to use the same tactics to attack the science of global warming. So the evidence was mounting that carbon dioxide generated by the industrial pollution from driving automobiles, right, was creating to unprecedented CO2 concentration in the atmosphere, and that was leading to global warming, and that was going to lead to severe climate change. This was a science fact. So the Texaco and Mobil, Exxon Mobil, BP, all these people at Shell, whatever. I'm I'm not pointing fingers at individual one, but certainly all the global players, they copy Philip Morris. What Philip Morris did in the 80s, okay, with regard to the science of cancer, carcinogenic property of tobacco and smoking. They start to copy the same playbook. So they attack the science of global warming and say that actually it's not. Okay, it's not really due to human activities at all. So coal is not the problem. By the way, the big evil doers here are not necessarily just the oil and gas. It's actually the coal mining. Okay, in the America, it's known as the Koch brother. They're the two people most powerful. One of them is dead already, but they're the two most powerful people in American politics, and they are heavily invested in coal mining. Okay, coal also is fossil fuel. So when you burn coal, you generate carbon dioxide. So they were using the tactics of Philip Morris to attack the science of global warming. Okay, and so that was the second milestone, so to speak. Okay, so I've already mentioned. If I were to take a quiz of what are the 3 milestones, you should be keeping track of the milestones. Okay, it's going to get more progressively closer and closer to data science. Okay, so the first milestone was what? The first milestone was news as news space as something that you can sell. Okay, so the CNN and deregulation of the news hours and the ability to make money from selling advertising on news hours. So that's the first thing. Second was Philip Morris attacking science. Third was the coal industry, mainly coal industry, and then followed by oil and gas, attacking the science of global warming using the same playbook as the cigarettes. Okay, so 3. So what happened? So it becomes the idea that wait a minute, you have vested interest deciding on the science that you prefer. So there is the science that you choose. You choose to believe on the science that does not say cigarette cause cancer because you want to sell cigarettes. You choose to focus on the science that proves, quote unquote, and these are all dubious science, concocted to make it look like carbon dioxide has no effect on global warming. You used to do that to strengthen the coal industry. And this is what basically is happening. All of this is happening, first of all, in America. This is happening in the United States. Some of you weren't even born. I mean, I was there, but some of you guys were just babies when this happened. Certainly the Philip Morris things probably happened before you were born. But all of this, I can say almost with confidence, happens in the Anglo-Saxon world, by which I mean United States or UK. Okay? I can say with fairly good confidence in that. Okay, but certainly other players, French players as well, and so forth. But mainly in the United States, this idea of combating the science with vested commercial interest. Now, so that's gate number 3. You can say gate number 2 and gate number 3 is kind of like the same gate. What's the third? What's another floodgate? Well, another floodgate is obviously social network platform. Okay, social network platform. Again, for those of you who missed the earliest part of my talk, the early 2000s was we were imbued with the idea that with globalization of information, with internet, everybody was going to come together. It was going to bring the world together because we were going to have a common understanding. There's going to be a platform for political, social, scientific, commercial debates, unprecedented in human history. We were going to be one. Internet was going to bring the world together. Now, the gate number 4 was things like, well, Facebook, to be honest with you, just Facebook. Okay, I'm going to use Facebook as my go-to term, but you could apply this to Twitter, to any other kind of forum. Well, basically, Facebook, the challenge with Facebook is that unlike news, which could be commercialized directly, all social platform network has to monetize their business indirectly. Okay, and some of you may already be aware of these issues. Obviously, they sell ad space, but they also, prior to a lot of scrutiny, they were trying to sell you private information, basically. Okay, they were trying to sell you private information as a package, data intelligence package. They were selling it to banks. You guys know I work for SCB as principal data scientist. I was there. I was there, and so all this internet platform, they were trying to sell them, monetize. They were trying to monetize by selling their consumer data to us, very expensive. So obviously they were getting all this for free. They just use the technology to harvest it. So you guys, okay, now I don't care if you fall asleep for the rest of the lecture. I want you to pay attention to one sentence. Before Facebook, you were the customer. They try to sell things to you. After Facebook, and I don't mean just Facebook, I mean all this, you became the product. Okay? They're selling you to commercial entities. Okay? It's like, let's say you have some cows running around. Okay? You have some cows running around in the wild. Then I grow this really rich farm with lots of grass. And I say, come and eat it for free. Please come and eat it. I have free grass for you guys. And you guys are cows, right? So you like free grass. So you all come and eat free grass. So I let you eat free grass for a while. When you're fat enough, I sell you to the slaughterhouse. So after Facebook, that's what you guys are. They draw you in to spend as much time as you can, to have interactivities, to have clicks that can be monitored. Then you became the product, because that information is sold to bank. Now, I don't mean just SCB or banks in Thailand. I don't mean just banks in other country. I mean, it's everywhere, all the banks, not just banks, insurance company, marketing companies, everybody. Okay? So basically, there's a transition. This is the biggest transformation of our society in the past, I don't know, 100 years, I would say, is that commercialization used to target the public, the mass. The mass used to be the client, and the industry was supplying the product. But in this case, the public then became the product that you sell to the industry, and the industry then turns around and make money from the public. That's something else. But with the social network platform, the business model, how to monetize it, is not to sell ads. Okay, you think that's how they make money? Yeah, that's how they make money. But what it is they're selling your behavior. So the premise was that, okay, you are the cows, they give you free grass, you come in. Okay, they don't send you to the butcher shop or the slaughterhouse to be slaughtered. But what they do is they observe your behavior and they sell that. Okay, let's imagine that. Okay, so it's a little bit less dramatic. They don't literally sell you to the slaughterhouse, but that's what happened. That's what happened. So this is very important for you to be aware of. And you may become aware of it in 10 years' time. Once you get into the industry, right, you are going to be part of the industry that actually turns people into product, because you will become data scientists. You'll be smart guys like me, you know, trying to make money from knowing the behavior, right? But see, you can see why it is. There's a distinction between knowing your customer so you can serve them better versus knowing the customer so that you can sell that knowledge. You can monetize that knowledge. Okay, there's a difference. Okay, I personally don't believe I have crossed that line, but I believe things like Facebook, Twitter, they have crossed that line. Well, maybe from day one, I don't know. Maybe it happened to them slowly. Maybe it happened to them in the first year. I don't know, but they certainly have well crossed that line. They have crossed the line from trying to find things that suit the people to trying to find the method for channeling information about people into products, information products. So you have to realize, first of all, that from 2000 and I would say 2010 is a good year to mark as a shift. From, let's say, about 2010s on, everybody, not just young people, old people as well, and we see that a lot in America, I'll tell you about that later, became products, not consumer. So we turn from consumption-based economy to quote-unquote information-based, with the only people making money are the people who harvest information. And information are not harvested from ground. Information are harvested from your behavior. And how do they harvest that? They give you free things, games, free cloud accounts, okay? Online chat, Zoom, which is useful, okay? So not all of this is bad, by the way. I'm not, you know, like I said, grass is really good for cows, okay? The trick is once you fed up, you should run away. You should eat the grass, the free grass for a while, but not stay there, okay? So yeah, so I kind of think of myself as an educated cow. Whenever there's free grass, I go and eat. Okay, but I don't linger around until they send me to the slaughterhouse. I just eat the grass and then I move on. Okay, so yes, I use Facebook. Yes, I use Line. Okay, but I don't let it draw me in. Okay, I don't let it draw me in. So that's my thing. Now, so let's introduce some of the things that you might be interested in. Political angle. Okay, what's going on in Thailand? Well, what's going on in Thailand, I'll come to. But like all good in social innovation, it first happens in the United States. Okay, and this is the fifth floodgate, known as Fox News. Okay, Fox News was created as a political propaganda. Okay, by this guy named Roger Ailes. Yeah. Conservative. Conservative in America means conserving the status quo, meaning the rich stay rich and preferably richer. The disenfranchised, like Black people, women, minority, Latinos, who were disenfranchised, they stay disenfranchised, immigrants. So by conservative, they're conserving white power, white male power, which is fine. I understand that. It's not, you know, I'm not against white people standing up, trying to preserve their, I understand that. The point is we should be smart. We have to know what the game's being played. Well, anyway, the point is because it was not, it was framed as a news organization. Okay. So the first shift was news as what? News as commodities that you can sell. Okay. News hours being very expensive prime time space. Now news becoming something that is used to draw people in. The news are the free grass. Now, how do you entice the free grass in America? You polarize people. America, by the way, is a deeply divided nation. It's always been that way. Okay? They had the civil war within the first 100 years of their founding, for Christ's sake, right? So they have this internal division that has been brought to boil and mended and so forth. But it's always there. Racism has never gone away. You know, people thought, well, we had Barack Obama as president, so racism is solved. No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. The conservative even got more scared. You know, if they could have black president, then they step up their game. Okay, they step up the game. Within hours of Barack Obama being confirmed as president, the Republican Senate had a secret meeting at a hotel, and this is not conspiracy theory. This is you know, they own this fact. You know, Mitch McConnell, all that people were there, and their game was just to block everything that Obama was having. So you know, the Senate was blocking everything that President Obama was doing. This was their intention. This was their intention. This is not fake news. This is public information. So anyway, the idea is this: it's a win-win thing. Why is it a win-win thing? When I said Facebook tries to draw you in with free grass, right? When your Facebook tries to draw you in with the free grass, Facebook is trying to sell the cows. With things like Fox News and all like that, this polarizing news, what they do, they don't just get the information, they mold the behavior. And that behavior then can be sold to the interest. If you can mold the people to be against the science of climate change, that behavioral change, that social engineering is valuable to the Koch brother because it keeps the coal industry going. Okay, so it's not just drawing people's attention and then getting the information about people's behavior, packaging and selling it to banks, like, you know, like the bank where I work for or whatever. It's now, if you can mold the behavior of the people, you can sustain the industry that should, you know, be on its way out. I mean, coal industry has no place in the 20th century, in the 21st century. But it's still here, it's still strong, okay? You still get coal subsidy, right? So people are becoming a product first from Facebook, because the more people consume Facebook, the more they can learn the behavior, the more they can sell that information. The second part of the product is the more people believe in, say, climate denial, the more value it is to the coal industry. Okay, so we have a little cottage industry that again started in America, and in this case UK. Anybody heard of Cambridge Analytica? Right? Because by molding people's behavior, you can have something that is of a highly profitable, valuable proposition to a political campaign. Cambridge Analytica did precisely that. Okay. Now, when Russia intervened with the US election, so you can say that, well, this is not about making money. You can say that. You can say that. You can say that Russia just wants America to elect a dumb president so that the United States will become a stupid country, and then Russia can rise. So it's not commercial, it's political. Well, really, it is commercial. Political, commercial, it's the same thing, right? It's about gaining power, gaining benefit, gaining advantage at the expense of somebody else, right? So if America becomes a stupid country, right, doesn't Russia stand to gain commercially? You see what I mean? So I'm not trying to propagate conspiracy theory or anything, but But the real fact, things like Cambridge Analytica, is real, right? Now, how many of you honestly believe what's going on in Thailand right now is not manipulated by data scientists? How many people think that what's going on in Thailand is just free spirit, student rising of the free spirit and years of oppression and all that? Has nothing to do with data scientists, people like me behind the scene. How many people think that data scientists don't have a hand in what's going on right now? Okay. So yeah, behind everything that's going on are a bunch of people like me who have crossed that line. I have not crossed that line. I believe I haven't. And I hope that I'm not teaching you the tools. So one day you guys will cross that line. Because you will have the power. Okay? If you know enough data science, you can start a revolution. You can. You can. Okay? Now, so how is this done? Well, it first starts very naively, very casually. If you like consumer electronic products, you Google it one day, you see it the next day. Okay? If you start to have doubt about climate change, okay? Now, let's say, is climate change real? You think that's a Google search. That's a neutral search, right? It's a Google search. No, it isn't. Because from a data algorithm, the fact that you put in that question means you are already thinking about doubting. Right? I will give you this exercise. Create, go to a computer store, buy yourself a very cheap laptop, okay? Create a new identity, which I admit is very hard now to start a brand new identity, okay? That is no, in other words, brand new person, okay? Make two of them. Do Google search. One of them say, is climate change real? And the other one says, scientific evidence of climate change. You think it means the same thing, right? Finding out the truth of climate change? No, it doesn't. The first one signals to the algorithm that you are on the verge of becoming a doubter. So the next ad you would see would be all this conspiracy, all this, climate change is a hoax, it's still snowing in New York, so it can't be, that sort of thing, okay? It won't happen overnight. It will not happen overnight. So this experiment will take about 3 months. So you start with two computers. One say, is climate change real? One say, the scientific evidence of climate change, okay? Then click every first entry that Google gives you. Do that for 3 months. You will go down entirely different paths. Okay? Hello, สอนหนังสืออยู่ครับ Hello ครับ ครับมาเลยครับ สอนหนังสืออยู่ครับ ผมครับ Right. You will actually go entirely different path. Now, here's the double whammy that I want to tell you. It's a win-win, right? Google wins. Sorry, Google, all these social platforms win because it has a lot of engagement. Okay? In other words, they don't care about the direction. They just want the volume. They don't care if you buy or you sell. They don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. They don't care if you believe climate change or you don't believe climate change. All they care is that you become passionate about it. You become engaged. You stay on for a long time. Your screen count, your screen hours gets multiplied. So it's the neutral volume that they want. That's the first win. Second win, if they mobilize one mass to support climate denial, it's a high value proposition for the Koch brothers, for the coal industry, right? So that one is contingent on molding the belief. So it has a direction to it. So the double whammy of making money from social platform is two things. One, number of hours you spend on it. Two, number of hours you spend on a particular side of the debate. Okay? Now, what is a debate, by the way? Debate is supposed to be two sides presenting evidence, right? What is a debate forum? There's a difference between what's a debate and what's a debate forum. A debate forum is a place that decides who is at the one side, who is at the other. Now, this is where I have to talk a little bit about Buddhism. Buddhism talks about middle path. Okay? Middle path in Buddhism, middle path in sufficiency economy, all kind of things about moderation, middle path, is not the middle of two things. Let me say that again. A middle path is not the path in the middle. You don't take one position and another position, put the pin down and find the middle distance. That is not the middle path. The middle path is an optimal path. It says the optimal path neither veers to the extreme left nor veers to the extreme right. But it doesn't say anything about quantitative middle. You don't say, this is position A, this is position B, find where they are, take the middle, and that's the middle path. That's not it. And that's what debate forum does. So debate forum finds the two extremes that exist. Now, what if one extreme is science and the other one extreme is coal industry, right? And you find the middle path and you call that the truth. Is that really the middle path? Okay? Or I say, a scientist say that cancer, smoking for long, prolonged smoking causes cancer. And Philip Morris say, no, it doesn't. The quote unquote responsible balance president of news is to say what? Put a scientist on one side of the debate and Philip Morris to the other. And presumably by the end of the news hours, you get somewhere in the middle as an agreed truth because it's in the middle somewhere. Is that the middle path? No, that's not. Okay? So balanced opinion is not the middle between right and wrong. And this has been known since World War II. Okay? This has been known since World War II. The propaganda, let's say one country A invades another country B. Okay? A invades B. Right? What is the strategy? A would tell the world that B invades A. Okay? A doesn't deny. Do you understand? A does not deny that A invades B. A actually accuses B of invading A first. So immediately out there, you get two positions. One, A invades B. Two, B invades A. You put them together, you find the balanced middle. They're just having good old-fashioned neighboring fights. Right? Try that. Try that. Go home today. Yeah? You have a younger brother or younger sister, right? You just go home and smack him or smack her in the head. And then you go tell your parents that younger brother hit you in the head. Right? The younger brother is going to tell your mom that you hit him in the head. But then you say, no, he hit me in the face. Right? Balanced middle, you both get spanked. Try that today. It's a lot of fun. That's what's going on today. In the consumer of news think they are intelligent by getting balanced information. Okay? Sometimes they don't know they're being manipulated, because data scientists, people like me, but with a lot less conscience, engineer the other pole with which to form the average consensus. Okay? If this is one position and I want to go, okay, if this is a position and I want the public to go here, right? I just create a position that's over here. I engineer it and then get something like what I want. And this is why you get a lot of silliness in the US politics. You see that? Now, let's go to Thailand. And this is where it gets interesting. I'll tell you what happened. And this has a lesson, not just for you guys who are citizens of Thailand, but you guys who are going into a consultancy business. There is this tendency, okay? Sometimes you're trying to import the solution. So you invent the problem. And consultancy do this all the time. Okay? That's how they make money. They sell you the solution by convincing you you have the problem. Okay? From fresh out of college, I've been meeting with consultancy pitch for all my life. They always sell me solution. Sometimes to the problem that exists, a lot of time. Sometimes they try to convince me that I have a problem so I can buy their solution. Now, Thailand has consistently done this. Let me give you an example a little bit further back. Do you know what separation of church and state is? It's a solution. It's a solution from the West. Church and state must be separated. It's a solution. It's a good solution. What is the problem? Have you guys heard of Spanish Inquisition? No? Well, when church had the power of state, you can literally be put to death for not having the right kind of belief. Okay? Any kind of, so in the West, when you have church holding the power of the state, okay, the church abused that. And literally, you were, and that happened as recently in a different way, in the different guise, in World War II Holocaust. Okay? So, church and state sounds like a good solution to a real problem. Okay. Before I was born, educational system in Thailand was based on 3 pillars. They call it Bawon, Bawara, Ban Wat Rong Rien. Home, school, and for lack of a better word, the temple. Okay? The 3 pillars of education were together, working together. But we had to get rid of that, because this education cannot be enshrined in the political system, because what? It has religion element in it, right? So we imported this solution called separation of church and state. Since when were people having their heads lopped off because they had the wrong belief in Thailand? No, go back, not just Ratanakosin, go back to Ayutthaya, go back to Sukhothai. Okay? From King Narai, who gave the religious freedom to, the Catholic, right? The Protestant, right? The Muslim, all in Ayutthaya. Okay? So since when did the power of state enforce, say, you must be a Buddhist or we'll chop off your head? Have you ever had that problem? And yet we immediately imported the solution called separation of church and state. Okay? We imported that solution. Now, I don't want to get, in trouble or, involved here, but use your imagination. King Henry VIII, okay, changed the entire country's religion conviction because he wanted a mistress to be his wife. King Henry VIII, well, he already had her as a mistress. That's not a problem. But to promote her as a wife stood against the Catholic. So he basically unfriended the Pope and created his own religion. And the Protestant Catholic war, right, during the Tudor period led to untold death. Okay? Led to untold death. King Henry VIII, the power of religion, all this led to abuse. Have we got something like that in Thailand? Ever? Yeah. So, when I was with the Bank of Thailand, when I was with Siam Commercial Bank, my role when I vetted the consultant when they tried to make fancy PowerPoint presentation was to make sure that, yeah, I was not being sold the solution to the problem that didn't exist. Okay? So the whole debate that's going on, everybody's getting passionate about all this. Oh, solutions good. I'm not saying the solution isn't good, but is solution good for what problem? Not my problem, not the problem in the kingdom that I grew up in, right? You see what I mean? So when you say, oh, one side say this is a bad solution, the other side say, oh, it's a good solution. No, I would say, yeah, it is a good solution, but this has nothing to do with us. Why are we importing the solution to a problem that doesn't exist in the kingdom? You see what I mean? Right? That's all I'm going to say. Use your imagination, use your head. Okay? Don't buy every solution that the consultant sells you, especially if that consultant has a vested interest. And know that you are now, because you live in a post-2010 universe, a product. They will sell you in two ways: by having you engage a lot, a long time, by making you dependent on this thing. That's how they make you money in the first place. And how else do they make money? They make money from mobilizing not only where you stay, but where you go. Which rabbit hole? Democrat, Republican, coal industry, science, all these things. Okay? All right? So the first thing to realize is you are a product. It's not something that was done recently. I mean, not this year, but it's been done for about 10 years. So your entire generation grow up. Your entire generation, this distinguish you from me. The most fertile years of your lives is right now. Is from the age of 10 to whatever 25. That period for me happened before 2010. But that period for you and everybody else that comes after you happens after 2010. So we have gone from the society where you are the consumer to the society where you are the product. So be aware of that. So when I say that you are being manipulated, I am not making an accusation that you are stupid. You are manipulated. Okay? If you are stupid, you are manipulated. All I'm saying is you are being manipulated. That is for sure. Whether or not you ended up being manipulated as intended or not is up to you. But it is a fact that you are being manipulated by people like me. Okay? By people like me. I've been on both sides. I've been on the, consultancy side and the side of corporate or institution buying consultancy products. So I know. Okay? And I also know a bit of data science, more data scientists than you do. Okay? So that's it. So this is very critical. This is very critical because you're learning the tools, you're learning the data analytics, right? Information is intelligence. If you go back to my very first lecture, I gave you three definitions of intelligence. Who still remembers that? Right? The first definition of intelligence is just human-like. That's like chatbot, right? That's like original definition of AI. Second definition is intelligence as in business intel or military intel. Pieces of information that allows you to have competitive or tactical advantage over your counterpart. And the third is just intelligent, meaning optimal or clever or smarter way of doing things like logistics and optimization and so forth. Well, the point is that I maintain that more clever things nowadays is considered AI. But AI isn't just delivering more clever solution to practical problem. AI is also delivering this kind of personal intel. Okay, who you are, how can we socially engineer you toward directed goals, right? Right. And so a lot of time this depends a lot of basic human psychology as well. Human psychology likes to rally themselves around a banner, a cause, a brand. It's the same thing, by the way. Psychologically, right? When you have this thing like, oh, we are champion of democracy, or I love Gucci and Hermes. Same psychology at work. People who are willing to spend a lot of money on something that just has a red letter that says Supreme. Same psychology at work. Okay? It's the identification of a tribal. Okay? This, unfortunately, is something you don't know because you haven't studied evolutionary biology. Evolutionary biology means that what is part of your psychology now or part of your behavior now had evolutionary advantage long time ago. And by long time ago, I mean millions of years ago when we were primates. When we became social primates, it was advantageous for you to organize yourselves around tribes. Tribes of baboons, tribes of monkeys, okay? We're not evolved from baboons and monkeys, but we had common ancestor. The common ancestor is a social primate. Social primate mobilized, organized, basically created economy around tribes. And you can see that today, tribes of baboons, pride of lions, okay? So, but we are primates, so we're even more than lions, which are just mammals, okay? So primates are very that. So this idea about gossiping, this kind of like making brand, if you don't stand with us, you stand against us, that sort of thing. And what's the meaning of life if you don't die for a cause? All these things had been evolved before we were standing upright. We were just hominids. before we were hominids. This is called evolutionary biology. It's been with us. Now, data scientists, marketing strategists, social engineers have studied this for years. This is not new science. This has been known since before you were born. Now you imagine all this knowledge combined with the power of data science, the ability to, with precision, target you. So they know what makes humanity tick. They know what young people tick. They know what young people driven by hormones of age between 18 and 25. And they know all kinds of stuff. Add that to the power of computational algorithm, you guys don't stand a chance. You don't stand a chance, really. Okay, you don't stand a chance. You are being manipulated. The question is how much and how long. That's all. That's all. I was manipulated, but you know, in my younger years, I was bombarded with ads for American jeans or something like that. You know, Converse. You know, and those guys were just marketing 101 guys. They didn't have data science on their hand. So I was able to grow out of my, you know, Converse or die kind of phase. Well, I didn't have that phase, but certainly some of my friends did. I grew out of that really quickly because it didn't have that kind of lasting hook. It didn't have that that depth. Okay, because it wasn't precisely target. You see, it wasn't the gene ad that was targeted to me. It was targeted to a general generation. Okay, you guys, when you go to your portal, okay, this is your. It's not a social platform. It's a psychological platform. Okay, whenever you go in, you are, you know. So I would imagine that it'd be nice if there's like an internet cafe that erases memory every night. And if you want to get some kind of what it would be like to get into the internet without your identity attached. So you can go every night and say, you know, what is a quote unquote neutral human being going to see? Because you don't see everything that is presented to you by Google, by Facebook, by Instagram, by everything is predetermined. It's predetermined. Now, if you check with your friend, you might belong to a similar cohort, so you probably see different things, similar things. Okay, Democrat with his friends who are sort of like centrist Democrat, and a friend who is more left-end Democrat will probably see similar things. But certainly, if you have a Republican uncle, you see different things, very different things, not similar. So that's that. So anyway, I thought it is a useful way of giving you a sort of to warm you up to the idea that yeah, you are actually learning something very powerful. Okay, so I want you to be aware of that. I don't want you to be the victim or the target of that, but I also don't want you to be the victimizer. I don't want you to one day end up, oh great, now I'm going to manipulate my peers because I know that I have the social engineering tools. Okay. You would think so. You would think so, but it's not, because the battle is not even. The battle is very lopsided. Because one side, I won't say which side, is very on top of Cambridge analytical tools. The other side are very naive. So we can see that, I'm saying the balance of power, the tools. One side, let's just say, roughly speaking, there are two sides going on right now. One side is kind of like marketing 101 kind of side. The other side is very savvy with marketing tools, with Cambridge Analytica kind of things. Okay, you figure out which side is very good, which side is very too old-fashioned. Okay, but yeah, it would look like that. Now you would imagine that Democrats and Republicans there are more even. The battle in America is a little bit more even. The battle in Thai is not even. It's very lopsided. Okay, it's very lopsided. Okay, one side has the power of social engineering and analytica. You know, the other one is just catching up. In America, it's a little bit more even between between say Democrats and Republicans. Okay. But the problem is this though, even if you have the same, say you invest the same amount of money. Okay, let's say I have $1 billion invested in propagating the understanding of climate change, and I have another $1 billion invested to the misunderstanding of climate change. It's still not even, because one game is a lot easier to do, right? Manipulating disbelief and manipulating, and the other one is so solid scientific understanding. I mean, look, your parents are spending lots of money to put you in good school, right? Does that automatically means you have the solid understanding of science? No, you have to put in the work, right? Intelligence, science, understanding takes a lot of personal investment. But if I were to spend the same amount of money trying to convince you the world is flat, it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier because the amount of intellectual investment that you have to do to study the science is very little. Yeah, it's very little. It's emotionally driven. Yeah, big corporate wants you to believe the world is round so they can sell you the, I don't know what, okay? But the world is actually flat. We've been fooling, you know, we didn't go to the moon. That's just NASA in a studio, okay? What does it take to believe that? Emotion, okay? But for you to appreciate the science of rocket navigating, you know, against gravity, what is the acceleration, what's the escape velocity that's required, how much do you have to align, and you have to plan it because, you know, you have these solar flare things going on between and radiation in between. How can you do that? This is a lot of science for you to appreciate, right? So what's going to be easier to convince? You know, the scientific basis for carcinogenic property of tobacco and tar versus, you know, health worries for sissies. Real men ride, you know, smoke Marlboro and ride horses. You see, so it's never going to be even. The solution is not to say, oh, the other side just spend more money as well. No, it's not. It's not. Again, the idea is that truth and lies should not be invested with the same amount. You see what I mean? If you have truth, $1 billion on truth, $1 billion on lies, the game is already lost. Right? Because you're already finding the middle ground, maybe not the middle ground, but you're already trying to average something true with something is not true. Right? If the central position is you shouldn't be importing solution to the problem that doesn't exist in your kingdom. Okay? And the other, you spend equal amount of money, maybe even less amount of money on the other side and say, okay, well, we should just follow what happened in France 300 years ago, what happened in Spain 500 years ago, what happened in England during the Tudor era. That's what, 400 or 500 years ago as well. Okay, yeah, that's exactly what Thailand's all about. You know, you look back at Thailand history, it's just like Tudor England. It's like Spanish and Inquisition. Whoa, whoa. You know, it's very emotional, right? So it's much easier. So the minute you try to balance the truth with the propaganda, the battle is already halfway lost. It's already lost because you're already diluting. So this kind of two-side, no. What you're saying would make more sense if it's something that's about a choice, a social choice. Say, for example, you want protection of privacy or convenience of consumer. Now that becomes a social choice, right? So yeah, you can say that one side prefer privacy, one side prefer convenience. And you can't say that privacy is the truth, convenience is a falsehood, or convenience is the truth, privacy is a falsehood. No, it's a social agenda. Yeah, when you're talking about that, yes, you can. You can talk about two sides having battles. You know, one with data scientists promoting the virtue of convenience, the other side promoting the virtue of privacy. Then then you can say about battle. But you know what's going on. Once you're being manipulated, you're being manipulated. We are being manipulated. I'm sorry to say that. And and all we can do is immunize. You know, I believe in this. I have this schema, sufficiency economy schema. One is moderation, one is causal nexus, and one's called immunization. The causal nexus means you look at things from a causal perspective. Now, I look at this conflict, not at the conflict. I look at what's driving it. There's a word in Pali, by the way, called ittappaccayata. Ittappaccayata is Bali. It means factor, things arising because of factor. Now, this is extremely important. Okay? Do you guys know how to fight fire in the forest? Firefighting. Firefighting. You know, in California, there's a lot of fire, right? You know how they fight fire in California? Well, they don't fight fire. They don't fight fire. They actually light more fire. I don't know if you know this. Yeah, they light more fire. There's a famous case where a firefighter was being chased by the fire. Okay, and one guy, what he did, this is during the on the grass plain, I think Michigan or something. Okay, did what American Indians did, but white people didn't know until this guy. The fire was coming down from down the hill. What he did was he just lit fire around him. Literally, just start burning grass around him. What happened is it burns all the fields. So when the fire came, the big fire came, it went around him. Everybody else was dead. This was the Man Gulch in this incident, happened about 70, 100 years ago. I don't know. Okay. Indians, American Indians know how to do this, but white people didn't know how to do this, and it became a study case. Well, you don't fight fire by putting out the fire. Fire creates from three things: oxygen, heat, and combustible fuel. You remove just one and it goes away. So you can actually make it really cold, starve it of oxygen, or remove the fuel. Okay? Well, that's what ittappaccayata, or หลักการความมีเหตุผล reasonableness or causal nexus of sustainable sufficiency economy เศรษฐกิจพอเพียง is all about. You extinguish that which gives rise to the problem. Okay? And this is, you know, you probably never studied this, but quite a few years ago, we were studying King Rama the Ninth check dam project. Do you know what a check dam project is? Phải. Okay. Well, here's the thing. Here's a funny thing. If you want to plan, if you say, what's the problem? The problem is deforestation. Okay? What's the Western approach to solving the problem? Well, you solve the problem, right? There's no forest, so let's plant forest. What's the Oriental ittappaccayata เศรษฐกิจพอเพียง Buddhist way of solving problem? Okay? The Buddhist or ittappaccayata way of solving problem is to say, what is the cost? And extinguish that. Well, a lot of time in Thailand, you get deforestation. Okay? Well, so what's your solution? Plant forest, right? And just plant more trees. But that usually doesn't work. Here's where, you know, projects like King Brahma the Ninth check dam project came. You analyze, why is there no forest? There's no forest because the soil is too dry. Okay, so what's the solution? Well, you just add more water. Well, hold on. Why is the soil too dry? It turns out a lot of times it's not because there's no water. It's because water comes in floods, flash floods, comes in and runs really fast. Okay, so it's not for the lack of water. It's because the water is flash flood. Okay, so what happened to flash flood? So you look up again. Oh, there is something like deforestation upstream. Okay, now this is where the moderation sort of like comes in. You can't go upstream to solve the problem because you're only capable of solving the downstream problem. So that downstream problem becomes what? The water moves too fast. Hence the check dam. Check dam doesn't store any water. It just slows the water down. Slows the water enough to have the natural absorption rate. Once the natural absorption rate is above certain threshold, the ground becomes moist enough. When the ground is moist enough, the forest plants itself. Because seeds just fly in, you know, from the air. You know that, right? Plants don't rely on you to grow. Seeds just come from the air, from neighboring area, right? From the wind. It just needs the right amount of moisture. The right amount of moisture can be created just from the check dam. Just so that if you slow the water enough, it overcomes the critical moisture threshold in the ground. Forest plants itself. This is how you solve the problem sufficiency economy way, from looking at causal effect. The English word for it is causal nexus. It's the connection between cause and effect. So causal nexus is the best Western translation I have of the word ithappaccayata. Okay, factor causal nexus. Okay, the meeting between cause, the chain of events. Now you don't always go back as far as you could, because you know you can't solve the problem upstream, so you go as far as you can. Okay, in this case, you know, solving the problem of the soil moisture. Okay, so this sort of analysis, it's very hard for me to impart this with the new generation, you know, because you're always being sold solution that solves the problem, right? You never sold the solution that eliminates the cost. And that goes back again to my experience with consultancy. Consultancy makes money from selling solution. And one solution creates another problem, and fine, they'll be happy with that because they come and sell you another solution, right? So you never quite address the cost. The Western technological advance, a lot of time. Now, I have great admiration for Western scientific discovery and technological breakthrough, but I tend to have less respect for their second and third generation innovator, because they tend to be using applied technology to solve a problem. But it's never the source of the problem. It's always solving this problem, and if there's another problem, you solve another problem, right? People want to eat sugar. Let's find a technology that maximizes the sugar production. People get diabetes. Let's find a solution that solves diabetes, right? And that's how economy is built. You see, from productionizing solution to a continuous proliferation of problems. Now, this is where I want to go to my last point for today. And I don't hope to achieve this. I don't know, you know, I'm talking to maybe about 30, 40 of you. If one of you get this, I'd be happy. Your next generation is different from mine. Your generation and the generation after. Our generation is about building things. Okay? Our generation is about building things. We also build problems. We also build solutions to the problems that we build. Then we build more problems. Then we build more solutions. Our economy creates things. Okay? US economy is going to be different. The way to go forward from sustainable development, from sufficiency economy, from circular economy point of view, is going to be different. You will have all your needs satisfied. The economy is going to be based on rehabilitating the ecosystem that you inherited from my generation. In other words, we created so much trash, literally and figuratively. Your generation is going to have to devise an economic system whose central activity is cleaning. Yours will have to be a cleaning generation. You will have to make money from cleaning. Okay? In other words, my economy is based on creating things and making a percentage from the value creation. That value is created from the consumer mind. Okay? Yours will have to be, the value is based on cleaning stuff and making money from it. Now, the obvious thing would be something like, well, if you recycle, you make money from recycling. But that's an obvious thing, right? But I'm talking about a social economic transformation that's deeper than that. The whole economic system has to be predicated on being paid to clean things. Okay? And that's not unreasonable. You can literally be paid to do nothing. And that in a social economic system makes sense. For example, after the Great Depression, Roosevelt, I don't know which one, the father or the son, I think FDR, yeah, create a system where you were paid to do something, dig a dish. And then you also paid to cover it up. Literally do nothing. But because you are being paid to do nothing useful, because you dig a dish, then you cover it up, the economy gets going. So don't take for granted that the economy always works if you make more stuff. Okay? Economy doesn't just create, first of all, yeah, economy has to make food because you need to eat food. But beyond that, don't take for granted that economy only grows if you make more stuff, if you sell more things. Economy can grow if you clean things as well. You just have to have the right social, economic, governmental transformation. Okay, and that's what brought me here. Actually, I hope to spend the last days of my career here, teaching you guys that transformation. Now, it's a little bit not fair. Why? Because again, you grew up post 2010. So just for you to step back and realize, like Keanu Reeves in Matrix, just for you to step back that you were actually, a farm animal, that takes a lot of realization. That's a big shock right there. I'm saying that in the future, you have to do more than that. You have to reverse a lot of stuff we've been doing. A lot of exploitative economy, this consumerism, this kind of turning you into product, this kind of benefiting from political conflict. Okay? You guys don't realize this, but people make money from war, right? So there is such a thing. So it's just, what is the economy built on? Economy is built on need. Economy is built on greed. Economy is built on conflict. You can also make economy built on cleaning up the shit that my generation left yours. Okay, I'm going to be long dead and the planets continue to be piled up. You know, all these things, one-use plastic happens in my lifetime. I celebrate it. I remember the first, you know, in my family, the first time we took a trip to Singapore, I was in 3rd grade. That was the first time our family saw ถุงก๊อบแก๊ป one-use plastic. That happened in our lifetime. It's a wonderful thing. Okay? ถุงก๊อบแก๊ป happened in my lifetime. And of course, now, by 2050, we'll have as much mass in, you know, fishery, in biomass in the ocean, will be roughly the same thing as plastic mass in the ocean. I don't mean big chunks of plastic you see. I mean the microplastic that you don't see. Okay, microplastics begins at 5.5 millimeters. So you know, you don't see with naked eyes anyway. Okay, when you go to YouTube and you talk about microplastic, they usually give you like little beads of something. That's not microplastic yet. That's just small pieces. Microplastic you actually don't see. Shrimps can ingest it because it's less than half a meter, half a millimeters. That's what we mean by microplastic. Okay. So yeah, there's a lot of things thrown at you today. Okay, and I hope I first thought that this would be a deviation from the course objective today, which is to brainstorm project. But maybe if I look at it, you know, with a ray of light, I guess it's something that should spark the conversation. This sort of project you want to tackle. Okay. Now, the reason I've been doing this, because A, I think it's important. B, it's the real reason why I'm here. Okay. Not the real reason in the sense that that's the only reason, but it's the really meaningful reason why I'm here. Okay. That's why I'm destined to be talking to you guys, and you guys are the first generation of the new kind of education. By the way, I am a product of this kind of education. I say so many silly things about the United States, and a lot, you know, Americans is one of those very unbalanced country. It's got so much great people, so much great ideas and great people. Okay. Stupid Americans, but there are so many brilliant Americans. Okay, and that country is just lopsided. Okay, it's so lopsided. And one of the wonderful things I learned in America is the system of liberal arts education, which is what Dr. Borasak tried to create here. You know, I don't know if I told you this, but of course I went to high school in America and all that, but I went to university there as well. Over there, faculties defines the lecturer. In other words, the faculty, literally the faculty member belongs to a faculty. Okay, so this guy's a professor, this guy's an assistant professor of bioengineering or physics, blah blah blah. Okay, but you as a freshman, as me, as an undergraduate, we don't belong to a department. We don't belong to any kana. We belong to the whole school. We decide on which major we want to go. If I major, in my case, I major in physics and economics, double major. So I spend a lot of time in the economics department faculty and physics department faculty, which in my university happen to be across from one another, so that's convenient. But the point is, I didn't go in as an economics student. In fact, I didn't declare my major until my 3rd year. My father, who just passed away 2 weeks ago, he has Ph.D. in electrical engineering. It's the first team in Thailand to let the surface-to-surface firing of missile. Well, anyway, he was a groundbreaker of the technology back then. But he's a very practical man. But one thing that impressed me to this day was that after my 3rd year, I came back for a summer something. I think there's a summer internship program with the Bangkok Bank. SIP program. And to qualify for that, you had to write some essay. And I wrote some essay in Thai. And he read that. And he knew that I like philosophy. And based on what he saw in my writing in Thai, he gave me the green light and said, you know, if you want to study philosophy for your undergraduate, go ahead. Don't worry about getting a job. So we have an electrical engineer, very extremely practical, telling me if I love philosophy, major in philosophy. He gave me that freedom. Fortunately, when I went back and I started to study Buddhism, I realized that Western philosophy is sort of like shooting fish in a barrel. You know what shooting fish in a barrel means? You have a barrel and you have fish in there and you're shooting. So you can't miss. Well, Western philosophy is axiomatic. If you start with a set of axiom, you just logically work within that. You definitely can't be wrong. Okay? It's a bit like mathematics, but with no application. So a lot of time, not all of it. Some philosophy are like that. And I kind of got tired of that. And there was a lot of philosophical implication in physics, like quantum mechanics. So I go back to my first love, which is physics. So that's how I ended up with physics and economics major, even though my father already greenlit me for philosophy. Now, what's cool about that is this. Philosophy forces me to study all kind of perspectives. That's why I don't get, induced by this Facebook, this manipulation. Okay, I understand where the philosophy comes from. All these things that all this silly symbolic thing, the French libertaire. I kind of it's not the first time I've been exposed to it. So I study Western philosophy. I know where it's coming from. Okay, and I'm not importing the solution if it's to a problem that it didn't exist. Okay, because I know when I studied philosophy, philosophical study in the West is always a solution. You don't realize this, but philosophy is a solution to something. It's always a solution of a social, spiritual problem at the time. Okay, so you have this problem in the Catholic Church, you have Protestant Reformation, you have this problem in the social society in France. And then you have the Republic Revolution. All this thing happens not in vacuum. It's always a solution to some problem. Because I study that, I realize which set of problem, which set of solution try to solve. Okay? So I don't just willy-nilly say, oh, that looks like a good solution. Let's import it to Thailand. Because, well, we never had this problem, but you never know. Okay? This kind of you never know. It's a bit silly. It's like saying, yeah, it could happen, but you don't realize from a Buddhist Ithapatya perspective, what could happen is not something that happens in vacuum. It's a function of factors. You don't have the nexus if you don't have the cause. That's what the causal nexus means, right? So you don't have the factor, you don't have the pajjai, you don't have the creation of the problem. You can't just say, hey, this could be a problem. Right? So I realized all solution came from a problem, and all problem came from something else. Okay, it's deep rooted in their culture. It's deep rooted in their history. Okay, it's no more fashionable to adopt the political science theories of a French philosopher in the 19th century any more than for me to adopt a voodoo practice that worked, in Mesoamerica 500 years ago. It may have worked even then, the voodoo practice, I don't know, may have worked. But if it's to a solution that didn't make sense to me, to a problem that didn't exist, I wouldn't import it, the solution just because it looks cool. There's nothing cool about that, right? So this kind of education, liberal arts education, is important. Now, you guys, because you have to struggle, you have to compete for entrance examination, you have to specialize, right? Well, you guys are not, but all your friends in different departments have to specialize. So if you're a biologist, you can't study philosophy. You don't have time for that. If you're studying to be a doctor, you don't have time to study even medical ethics because it's not on the exam. Well, it's only a little bit on the exam. but you don't get to study the historical root of medical ethics. Okay? You don't get to study Western philosophy. You don't get to study Eastern philosophy. You don't get to study the historical context when the East and the West met. What happened? You don't get to do all that because you have to study, you know, engineering preparation exam or something like that. Now, you guys are different. You guys have that luxury. Professor Warsak is trying to create that kind of liberal arts education. Liberal arts education, by the way, used to be what Aksonsat was all about. Aksonsat taught physics. I bet you didn't know that. Yeah, liberal arts is not about social science and humanities. You go to Aksonsat today, you learn history, language, right? Well, Aksonsat means is liberal arts. So actually, you study physics in Aksonsat, but no more, no more. It got too specialized, and that's what Professor Warsak is trying to bring back. Okay, I study physics and economics, right? A friend of mine, not a close friend, but a friend of mine was studying pre-med to become a doctor, but his second major was violin performance. Okay, ended up, I think, being a violinist, not a medical doctor, but whatever. This kind, you know, so this kind of completeness, this kind of broad-based education is the best kind of education for you at your age. Break? Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. I'll come back in a few minutes. We'll have a break in say 5 or 10 minutes. But so that's it. I just want to finish up on the value of liberal arts education. It gives you perspective. It gives you where things are coming from. You don't. I don't know the English word for this. The Thai word is katokata. You don't. You know. Wow. And immediately either reject or jump into it. You kind of sit back a little bit. Where is that coming from? What is this the solution to what problem? You kind of sit back a little bit. The clever word, the word for this kind of reflective is yoniso manasikan, which I don't know how to translate in English. Yeah, yeah. A lot of words are not translatable, and that's, by the way, that's my first lesson when I went to America. My aunt, who's at that time was a director of publication and physics department at Washington University, which is how I got exposed to physics a lot of them. She told me that she was told by a Western priest, a Catholic priest, I believe, who lived in Thailand, who learned Thai, and said certain words are not translatable. Words like nam chai. Nam chai is not translatable in any language. Okay. So we have a lot of words in Thai that are like that. Words that reflect a deeper thinking, a more nuanced, a more subtle understanding of human nature and relationship between you and the society at large. Okay. German is a bit like that. German is one of those words that's very sensitive to emotional description. I don't know German, but I know that German have a lot of those words. Chinese also. You know, words like man kiao and man sai, you can't translate them in English, but in German and in Chinese you can, something like that. So yoniso manasikan,คิดแบบแยบคาย, that you know, reflective, close. But anyway, the value of this kind of quote unquote American style liberal arts education, I think it's very good. It's something that you should embrace. And part of that education is to not say, what am I going to learn today that I'm going to make a living off? Or how's this going to be making money for me? You know, if you don't have that thing, maybe you pressure with that at home, you know. Are you learning something today, honey, that you can make money in when you graduate? Well, if you don't have that pressure, the freedom, the intellectual freedom that comes with it is amazing. I got to experience that, and I hope you guys have to. So anyway, so let's take a 10 minutes break, and I hope when we come back, I don't have to say another word. It's all discussion about projects. Okay, so please be active and engage yourself. Okay. Good.